Apple Spatial Audio plugins are now here for Pro Tools, and this is a first look, but don't bother wearing any headphones or any headsets. We're not gonna need this today. This is just a very dry first on impressions. I just had a little look at the plugins and there are so many things to discover, so let me take you with me, I guess, and let me struggle with my English again. But I hope people can appreciate what's happening. So you can download it actually on the official from the official Apple homepage, and when you install it, there are very interesting things. First of all, there are tutorial videos, and one of them is like 40 minutes, like the whole overview about everything, and I thought I could speed it up a little bit and just see like what buttons you can press and know that's what the people are interested in. And then there is a video player, spoiler alert, which is really interesting. And then of course something to know about the export and installation. But this is just a quick run through. I actually do have a project in my pipeline lol, for where I'm supposed to mix something with Apple Spatial Audio. And this is where I will do a deep dive and experience more with the tools and really have something to listen to and not just click buttons and see anything. And here to already make you excited. Wow, this is the object panel. But let's have another look at what's in the box. There are Pro Tools presets, then there are session templates, and this is what you can see right here. I just opened pretty much the session template, up to 256 objects. Like, who even needs that, I guess, but I don't judge. And the setup in Pro Tools, as always, is a bit annoying because you have this 7th order ambisonics thing, since you are not really allowed to just create a bus and say, hey, I want to have whatever the file size or like track size, and decide how many channels you want. This is not Reaper. This is Pro Tools. So the whole pipeline pretty much is that you do have quite some objects already layered here, but let's just start with object number 1, and it's basically routed to this routing folder. Is it routing? I have no idea. Write me in the comments and help me improve my English. And then we have it receives something, but I guess we will just go through it step by step, and let's just start right away with the object panel. And there is something to see here. It's the coordinates are spherical. We will get to that. There's the radius, there's azimuth and elevation. And while I talk about it, I think it would be useful to actually show you where is it? The big thing. What's it called? I think it's called Panner. Yes, it's the ASAF Panner. And as you can guess, those two things are connected. So when I move around the azimuth, you can see that in the big panner, probably when I have multiple objects even activated. There you go. There you have two objects, and you can pan them around. You can probably even pan them, yes, right here. That works nice. What I realize when I try to pan it, sometimes gets stuck, but it's not too bad. Then we have the radius. It's actually the distance. You could also call it that way. I thought it's the radius of the audio object, but we will get to that since there are a lot of options. And then you have the elevation, making you tilt the object up and down. You can also set widths and height, and you can see there is some visualization going on, and honestly it's hard to tell, like, what is that, why are you doing this? We will probably find out in another video. Ain't nobody got time for that. But there is now even directivity, and if you remember from the Facebook 360 community, there was this was pretty much the last feature that they implemented, I think. And directivity here is taken to the next level. You can actually switch between person or singer or studio monitor, and it probably will change how the sound will, travel through space, obviously. Usually it's just a mono sphere, but like this, I can imagine that the bass will behave differently than higher frequencies, since higher frequencies are more have more directivity, while bass can't really be localized anyways. So if I scroll down, you will see that there are actually more options now. I just randomly choose the preset. Let's imagine object 1 being a person, and you can then change where the sound would be coming from. So you could be thinking, oh, is the person really talking to me, or is the person talking somewhere else, which can give you some interesting effects. Then you can obviously do this with the 3 axes, X, Y, and Z axis. And you can also change it from absolute to origin, which always points to you because you're in the middle of the scene. So origin makes more sense to me. But imagine if you have multiple sound sources that are pointing into one direction. This is where it could be useful. But there is so much more to discover. We now just covered the position. You can also have a look at the scene. You can convert it to the scene and add some room simulation. We will get to this later. To enable the object, I have to disable this again. And now it's interesting going to headlock, which I'm a big fan of. I don't say stereo is better than spatial. I don't say spatial is better than stereo. I think that there's a strong coexistence in the future. And here is something interesting that happens when I press checkbox. It gives you the option to externalize or not externalize, internalize, I don't know, this thing, which is interesting because most of the time, if you work with headlocked audio, this is how it would look like. You would have just a stereo track and it doesn't have any spatialization. But I always figured, why can't you use binaural recordings, for instance, as a headlocked stereo track? And this is what you could do with the setting. But what if you want to have the same spatialization effect on your 3D objects, but also on headlocked objects? So this could mean there is an object in space, you would do the head tracking, and it would actually move with you. This is something what you could do with Dolby Atmos VR 10 years ago or something. So this is still a thing, I guess. Then you have supplemental metadata, and you can see that you can tag metadata like effects, dialogue, narration, and whatnot. And this will actually be interesting again in the export, because in the export you would have the options to just export the effects, for example, and stuff like that. So that's interesting. And then you do have a reverb that you can enable and also mix inside the object. So you wouldn't probably be using any sense from Pro Tools, but you could just directly set automation and maybe use the reverb mix and send it from here, essentially, because it ends up in this bigger thing that we are now gonna have a look at. And let's go through it step by step. You have pretty much categorized your objects. You can even go inside and create more groups and enable and disable whatnot, and probably switch on and off your objects. Then you have groups. As soon as you create groups, wow, there's a group. And then you have the scenes, and we will get to the scene renderer in a minute. Or we could do it right here. It's not too exciting. It probably just takes those up to 64 objects and converts them to a scene. Scene is something that's kind of new with Apple Spatial Audio. It's they combine scenes and objects, but how they work together, if they can be combined, how they work, or you can see you can convert objects to scenes and then something happens. I'm not too deep into that right now, so bear with me, but I will definitely have a look and see what the differences are to, for example, Dolby Atmos, where you have objects in the bed. Is it a bed? Is it something else? We will find out. Then you do have channels, and we will also get to that probably later. But let's have a look at the camera view. You can do this. So this is pretty much the top view that I was showing you all the time. Then we have the back view. Imagine here's like a screen. So top view is what most people know from Dolby Atmos. You can just click here and choose another perspective if you wish. You could also lock it so that you don't I don't know, accidentally mess up with this, you can, let's go to the back. And then you have views. Whoops, no, you have space and settings. This is where I was clicking at. What's happening here? Ah, there we go. This is what I wanted to show. You can just adjust the screen as you wish. And this is with the space where it gets interesting. You do have the camera rotation, the elevation. I think this is where it would have changed. And there's also a field of view. That's interesting. And then there is a room. And this room probably corresponds with another room feature that I saw earlier, but I forgot where it was. I apologize. I think, no, it was not the reverb. It was something else. Maybe we find it later. I think it was with the scene. Nope. Or with the renderer. No, that's also something else. Bear with me. We will find out later. So there's apparently something with room that you can choose, and you can also choose from the some materials, whatever you want to have. And let's have another look at the settings. You can those settings, by the way, will be looking familiar to people that already have DaVinci Resolve, which already has this Apple Spatial Audio plugins or like tools, as you want to call it, implemented. But now like those things become a plugin for Pro Tools. And you can choose between movie and music, which is interesting. So there seems to be a differentiation of, do you have a video, and we will have a look at it later, and music. It's unsure yet if it changes something with the rendering of just how you experience it as a sort of metadata. And you can also, if you wish, switch from spherical view, like with azimuth and elevation, to Cartesian, which some may find more useful. Then there's unfortunately in the long video I just had a look, it's not really explained what are the differences between virtual reality and virtual reality plus speakers, and what's the difference even between virtual reality and headphones. But if you follow this channel, you are likely gonna find out, or just ask me any question if you wish. And here we do have the reverb that is connected probably to the audio object, so you could, which is pretty nice. I remember the Facebook 360 workstation, it had some room sizes, but it was just some early reflection. It doesn't really feel as any reverb. So here you have a large room, medium room, even outdoor, which is always great, because I feel like most reverbs make it impossible to tell something is happening outdoor, and with immersive video, this could be really interesting. So this is the session overview, and then we have the head. You can guess, you will be able to turn your head. Let me just zoom more in that we see it even better. And you can tilt your head and move your head and do whatnot. You can also switch it off if you want and center it again. And this is where it gets interesting. You are allowed, lacking for words here, you can connect any head tracker. For example, you could use AirPods Pro, or like any AirPods with head tracking actually, or use OSC, which can be interesting if you are using any proprietary or not head tracker. Like what's the opposite of that? You know, like in any open format head tracker. You can also adjust which HRTF is being used. This is interesting, like the system HRTF that Apple gives you, or you have any user file or something personalized. This is really cool. Then, stuff you can switch on and off to make it look more complicated or less complicated, however you want to. So I think that's the main overview already to what's happening here. Let me close those windows. It's, yeah, when I share my screen, it's impossible to even press something. So now let's have another look at the scene renderer. Yeah, it does something with the object. Ah, this is what I was looking for earlier. There we go. This is how it's connected. Where was it? The panner. There we go. The panner and here we have the space. And I think this is connected. Yay! This is what I was talking about earlier. So bear with me. Now let's have a look at the, I think it was called scene. So many new words. There we go. This looks oddly familiar to any, I don't know, Ambisonics plugin that has an accurate rectangular view. And here are very interesting things you could do, like obviously work with 7th order Ambisonics, assign metadata. Then we go to this supplemental metadata, and you can do quite a lot here, but not too interesting. There we have any sort of gain that will be interesting with the visualizer that I will show you later. And the most interesting feature that I haven't really seen in any other plugin like Facebook 360 Workstation, since I mention it all the time, or Dear Reality, or Audio Ease, or you name it, is a spatial filter. And this apparently attenuates anything that's happening inside a specific windows, so you could move it around. And if you want to say, oh, there's something happening on the right and I want to make this louder, this is where you could boost it, for example. Or if you are like an edgy person, you could also switch it to rectangular, and you could even add multiple filters. So you could even add another filter that would be coming from another direction. There it is. Interesting, really interesting. But let me get rid of that. And then you can add some mirroring. I don't know if you mess something up, or if the video suddenly is mirrored, but that certainly is something that could be useful. You could also switch front and back and up and down, so why not? Then there is the rotation of this whole scene. We will get to this later, I think, again. And there's even a visualizer that's very familiar for people who know Ambisonics visualizer, like the IEM suite has a visualizer, and Audio Ease, and this is a feature I always loved about it, it does have a visualizer on top of your video. Speaking of video, we now have a new video player. So let me try to find it. I think I can just, open it like this. And this is a video player. Isn't that great? You can pretty much open any video. Okay, how about this 360 video? You can pretty much just drag and drop it into the scene, and then you see a guy here. And now let's have a look of what we can do with the video player. Something that's really cool is you can rotate the whole video. This is something I just knew from G Audio Labs, like the G-Works plugin station they had, but this could be handy when the rotation changes, I guess, or you have a weird video. I don't know, I don't judge. But now we can also change the field of view, and I guess this is where it gets interesting for anything that's 180 video, that you pretty much just crop down the whole video, and then you would have the view for 180, I guess, but I'm not entirely sure, because that would mean that the whole plugins are actually 360 video first, and then you move down to 180 videos, which is I wouldn't have expected from Apple, since they are really immersive video first, and then 360 video is not what we want even. And I also don't really find a way to use 3D stereoscopic video, so there wasn't really a way to just crop that, which could have been handy. So with the object you can adjust what's the overlay. You have also interesting features, like, of course, you can just pan everything here, and when you don't see as much from the video anymore, you can just change the opacity. There are also options to lock the radius, for example, that if you move your mouse, or you can even select multiple instances, like multiple objects, or you can lock the azimuth. This would mean that it's just locked you can't change the radius elevation. This can really be interesting because you're essentially always working with a 2D screen, but you have a 3-dimensional object, which is always difficult to work with. And then you can switch on and off those additional information. And for the scene overview, this is where you would have the visualization, but for some reason it didn't really work when I tried to test it, so bear with me. I saw it in the video and it seems to be working. It's a Sunday evening, so I wasn't motivated enough to try to fix that. But you can imagine that you see that sound is coming from a certain direction, and it would ideally match to what you see and what you have adjusted with your object. And there are some things you can do with the opacity, which is neat. And then you can switch the grid on and off. You can also configure image conversion. Not sure what's that all about. But as soon as I dropped in the video, you see there is a time code jumping in. And I guess as soon as I press play, the video would also, it took a bit, but it starts play. So probably when your timeline doesn't really match the video timeline, this is where you could adjust it. And if you throw it out and reset it, boom, you are gone. So I guess I didn't forget as much. Oh, there's one more thing. Here's the object renderer. It takes all the objects, and renders them. Captain Obvious. There are 2 things that you can currently do. You can press stereo when you are working with speakers, or binaural when you work with headphones. But this is where you would also change it to anything that's multi-channel audio. But there isn't really a preset, which I was surprised. You can choose a custom layout, and then you would have to go to this documentation and check for the 2-speaker renderer custom layout thing, and then you would have a custom layout. If you have a look at this, nope, that's not. This is how it looks like. Wow. I guess you would have manually to set up your own speaker layout here, which is kind of odd. I would have imagined it at least has, I don't know, the most relevant 5.1, 7.1.4, something like that, but this is not the case. Still interesting. You can adjust something here or even here. And now I accidentally changed the scene. Let's go back to that. That's better. And then the last step would be to make an export of your scene, and it pretty much works. I mean, there is a tutorial video inside the box, but just that you've seen it. You mark a selection, like where do you want to have anything bounce, then you mark your object for bounce, and then you automatically have this preset, and then you bounce your thing, and it comes with presets. So if you press first order, whatever, 128 objects and 7th order, it automatically gets to the sources, and then you do a bounce, and then a window magically opens up and says, hey, I know you just did a bounce. Let me just, for testing reason, try if this works. Oh, there we go. There's this window. And this is where you again open the file that you just created, and then you can convert it into pretty much an MP4 is what you get in the end. And then this is what would allow you then to back it, to max it, so like to merge it with the video again and give you a spatial video with spatial audio. But I would have loved something like the Facebook 360 encoder. That's not even running probably on this machine anymore. Yeah, there we go. If somebody knows how to fix this stupid thing, but you get a look of how it looked like. So I can just load in my video, load in my audio, press encode, and it was the easiest thing for everybody, even for clients. I could just send them something and I knew there's nothing you can really mess up here. But with this Apple video immersive utility and whatnot, I find it really difficult to even create anything that runs on this headset. So this is still some sort of a nuisance, but the tools I just showed you are pretty promising. I would be excited to know what you guys think, what you want to know more about them. And I thought this would be a short overview. Turns out it's probably even longer than a video that's included in those plugins, but would be interesting to know what you guys think. And yeah, for updates, make sure you subscribe. As mentioned, I do have a project that I will probably use the plugins for. So I will hopefully be back with even more insights and something to actually listen to. So this is going to be exciting. Guys, thank you very much for watching, for bearing with me. I have a dry mouth, so that's it for my TH for today. See you then. Bye-bye.